In his second visit to our program. And you should also know that he has asked for and we have consented to a couple of things. One, there are approximately 25 brothers and sisters from the Nation of Islam whom you've asked to be in our audience, and we were pleased to oblige. You also asked us for an opportunity to give a 2-minute statement here at the beginning of our program. And like the magnanimous person that you've always known me to be, we should say this, that we do you no favors, Minister Farrakhan. You're entitled to these airwaves. They belong to the people. And we thank you for consenting to accommodate our format here, after which, after this statement, you'll answer my questions and those of our audience. And why don't you proceed now?
Thank you. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, my dear visitors and friends, and those of you in our television audience, the United States of America, one of the greatest nations in the last 6,000 years, is in grave trouble, not because of the power of a foreign government, but because of an internal rot and decadence that could very well sentence this nation to the ignominy that many of her sister nations have gone to before her. America is in the path of Sodom and Gomorrah, ancient Egypt, Babylon, and Rome. And at the core of this internal problem of America is the unwanted presence of nearly 30 to 40 million black people who didn't come on the Nina, the Pinta, the Santa Maria, or the Mayflower, but who came in the holds of ships. And from the day that our fathers set the soles of their feet in the Western Hemisphere, our cry has been for justice, and our cry is for justice today. I am not before you to anger you, to upset you. I am before you as an instrument, I hope, of peace, and I hope of reason. As a student of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, I want you to know that I'm not an enemy of America, nor am I an enemy of Jews or white people, and certainly I'm not an enemy of black people. But I hope you will understand before this is over that I am pro-truth, pro-justice, and I hope for the liberation of our people and the salvation of this nation. Thank you very much.
Well, now, that's a hallmark card of an opening statement, if I may say. To be compared, if we might, just for the moment, Brian, if you're ready, let's take a look at Minister Farrakhan addressing the African American Summit meeting in New Orleans. Here you are telling what you believe with just a bit more energy than you opened the Donahue show. Here's what you said to a predominantly black audience in New Orleans.
Why should our people have to subsist on charity or live in poor houses when we built the country for you, fought, bled, and died to maintain the country for you? You ask us to pay taxes like everybody else. Wait a minute, we don't get justice. We give you our tax dollar to support a police department that doesn't respect us. We give you our tax dollar to support education that does not educate us properly. We give you our tax dollars. You spend $4 billion each year on Israel to maintain Israel in a welfare position. You send billions of dollars. You rebuilt Germany. You rebuilt Japan. Here we are, fought, bled, and died, made you what you are. What are you willing to come on down with to help the black man rebuild himself?
You know what I think? I think you've given up.
Given up on what?
On the ideal of an integrated America, the dream of Martin Luther King. I think you've given up. I'm not trying to be a smart aleck now. I'm telling you honestly that I think you've given up.
If I may respond, The Kerner Commission, established by President Johnson in 1967, said that there were two societies, one black, one white, one rich, one poor. And the Kerner Commission gave specific recommendations that had to be followed if America believed in integration. 20 years after that, a group of scientists got together to see what the progress was. And the progress is
backward.
That we have a larger middle class, but the masses of black people have gone backward. And the country is not only separate and unequal, but in worse condition today than it was then. So I don't think, Mr.
You make my point.
Donahue, you should put it on me that I've given up. America has never believed in integration. Never.
Mr. Farrakhan, I can't really stand up and jump up and down and say, shame on you for this feeling. I truly can't. The evidence is overwhelming. Overwhelming. 1 in 4 black males either in jail or under the tutelage of the prison system. And so I'm here to say that it hurts me to think about this, but I think I have a responsibility to understand how a lot of smart people would get to this place. America is not interested in integration. If that's the case, why are you even bothering to suggest that you're interested in it? Why not make your statement more in fact and without qualification? And if America has not been interested in integration, I assume you feel it never will be, certainly not in your lifetime. So why don't you proceed then from that point of view and tailor your speeches accordingly?
It's deeper than that, Mr. Donahue. We have a stake here. We have helped to build this country. When the Civil War broke out, supposedly, Mr. Lincoln wanted to free the slaves, but according to his own words, he really didn't care whether America had slaves or not. He really wanted to save the Union. Black soldiers fought on the side of the North and the South. The Union was saved, but we were not.
Yeah.
We have done what every citizen should do, but we have gotten nothing from it. So America is in trouble. And we believe we have a solution to the problem. And if the solution is good for black people, it's good for America.
Yeah. With time fleeting, what is the solution?
If we are already separate but unequal, and there is not the will on the part of the United States government, nor is there a national will to reconcile the differences between black and white.
If you don't believe there is.
No, I don't.
All right.
Well, I really don't.
Okay, let's not qualify it then.
But when I say if, I'm speaking now for those who might think there is that possibility.
Why mollify them? Why patronize them? Why accommodate them if that's not what you feel?
I don't wish for them at this point to feel that their thinking is discredited. But if in the course of this discourse and in the face of the overwhelming evidence that America really doesn't want black people, then look, let's tally up what is owed to us. Let's sit down and talk about a just solution. And I tell you, like Moses said to Pharaoh, let us go and do something for ourselves.
Okay, so let me understand this now. We're going to come up with several billion, I assume, huh?
I don't think this is the appropriate forum.
Well, no, I'm just trying
discuss.
I don't either, but I'm just trying to find out. reparations not unlike, but certainly more substantial than those that were voted for the Japanese who were interned in World War II, money which incidentally has yet to be forthcoming to them, approved but not expended. Okay, I get that. Now, where are you going? Are you going then back to the homeland? Are you going back to the African continent? Is that your idea?
You know, again, all of these black people here have a stake here. We have a stake here, I think, that is more valid than those who just came here a few years ago. These are the children of those who built this. So, yes, we can go there or we can stay here. If we stay here, then why not separate and give to the children of those who built this country land and reparations that we may go and do something for ourselves. Now, I did mention, however, that there is the possibility of some of us returning to Africa. Africa is in need of the scholarship that we have gained from our sojourn in America. And just as England let go some of her convicts who had no hope, languishing in prisons, to help build this, and just as Britain let go of her convicts to build Australia and New Zealand, we have 609,000 black young men behind prison bars with no hope at all. Since we have the ability to reform them, let us reform them. Give us our title. Look, wait, just 1 minute. Since Africa had a part in our coming here, for it was some African brothers of ours who helped to sell us. And there were some Arabs who had a part in it. There were some Jews who had a part in it. There were some Europeans who had a part in it, but the death blow was dealt by the slave masters here in what is called now the United States. So since we didn't give up our right to Africa, then why should not we petition our own kith and kin to set apart for the children of the slaves certain land and territory that some of us, particularly those who have no hope whatsoever in the society, let them go to begin to build a new reality for themselves and for their people.
In the homeland, in the land from which their kith and kin originated,
yes,
and from which they came. Now, those who choose not then to go to Africa,
again, they have as much right here as you do.
Well, but wait a minute. We've got a deal here. We're letting people out of jail.
Yeah.
Well, that does complicate it just a little bit. Where do I, assuming that not all the brothers will wish to return to Africa, obviously I do not presume to speak for them, but it's not unreasonable to assume that not all of them want to go. Is it your notion that there should be an area within the continental United States to establish a nation, a separate nation?
If we agree that these brothers and sisters of ours can't get any justice within the social, political, and economic order that you call the United States.
You said if. You don't think they can.
Why shouldn't we be separated in a state or territory of our own?
Because then there's this imaginary line. You get some sheriff down there chewing mail pouch, and we've discussed this before.
But look,
all of a sudden somebody starts holding hands with somebody else at the drive-in theater, and then the racist words are heard in the night, and there goes the neighborhood. Come on, you can't possibly expect.
You can't trivialize the cry for justice. Right. Now, it was not impossible for England, France, America, and the United Nations to take land from the Palestinians and settle Jews in a state of their own, giving hope to oppressed Jews all over the world. Why should there be this trivialization of a desire on the part of black people, since we have not made it here, to go and do something for ourselves? we as black people have to provide a future for our people, for the government, and white people are not providing a future for us. So it is wrong for us to stay around laying at the foot of white people like the Bible's Lazarus, begging for crumbs that fall from their table when we can go and make a table of our own.
Minister Farrakhan, when you suggest, I'll just take a minute here. When you suggest that I trivialize your proposal, you speak to an attitude that I didn't present, far from trivializing it. I am merely asking you to consider the consequences of an isolated island of African Americans within the community that we now call the United States of America. And you use the state of Israel to support your notion and its practical possibilities. And yet you feel that Israel was immoral and unfair to Palestinians in its declaration of statehood in 1948.
But you had the will to take land from Palestinians. We have a more natural right to land in Africa or land here than the Jews had to Palestine.
Okay.
And if you could do that for them, sir, with all due respect, why is it so silly to think that we now should be some isolated ghetto? We can be isolated in the ghetto, but we can't be together in unity.
I didn't say
building
that.
A nation. No, you didn't say that, but I'm saying it. You think that we're going off into some isolation.
Well, where will it be? Where will it be? You want?
Well, that's something we have to discuss.
Yeah.
We have to negotiate that.
Yeah. Yeah. You got. Let me. May I ask you for some brief commentary on this before our break? This audience wants in here. You agree with Ronald Reagan that the welfare state creates a slave mentality, do for me, and is a kind of sleeping pill for the recipients, regardless of color. Do I understand you correctly?
You understand Mr. Reagan correctly. But a welfare mentality was created when my fathers and mothers were made slaves and robbed of the knowledge of themselves and dependent totally on a slave master for food, clothing, and shelter. So that when we were so-called set free by the 13th Amendment, we didn't have the mentality of a free people to go and do for ourselves. So we turned right back around and volunteered our services for not free labor, but so close to free labor. So now Mr. Reagan says we don't want welfare because it leads to dependence. We already have been made dependents, but he uses that as an excuse to cut back on what he was already giving to the people and then never providing the safety net that he said he would put under those that he cut off. That is injustice, and it only compounds the evil.
In your interview with the Washington Post, you said, among other things, some Jews, and they shared with their readers the entire transcript, everything you said.
No.
No.
Oh,
they edited it?
Oh, yes.
Oh, well.
But I can't say that these are not my words. And I thank the Post for what they did.
Over a full page.
But my interview would have been probably 6 pages.
Okay. Some Jews have been, you say, some Jews have been responsible for characterizing black people as clowns and buffoons, using the movie industry to get that message over. This is a dialogue you're having. You say you want an island with Brock Peters. He's shooting a movie and a Jewish producer. I didn't. Did he tell you he was Jewish, or did you just?
Oh, yes, sir.
He just said, "I'm Jewish producer." You make the point. You make the point that He says to you, you know, when we feel some danger, when we feel something, we get together and we essentially create screenwriters. The creative community does things to ensure to set things right. You're suggesting that the guy felt he could manipulate, and you believe he could too. You're coming very close to saying that that Jews control the media.
Oh.
But I want you to answer me this. Some Jews have been responsible for characterizing black people as clowns and buffoons using the movie industry to get that message over. What do you think of Eddie Murphy?
Okay.
Let me just remind this audience, this is the #1 box office star in the wealthiest free market democratic system in the history of the universe.
Eddie Murphy is my brother, and I love him as a brother. And whatever criticism I have for Eddie Murphy, I would say that directly to him, and I wouldn't use this show to do that. But I think it's not to be diminished to Eddie Murphy. But if you look at the black man's self-image, the black woman's self-image, that image is created for us through centuries of miseducation. Now, if I, as a black person, or we as black person, do not have a healthy respect for ourselves, then we cannot expect anyone else to show respect for us unless we have respect for ourselves. But we cannot respect what we don't know. And so there's a crime of omission and a crime of commission that robbed black people of a knowledge of self that would cause us to love ourselves and love one another.
So you're not thrilled then with, for example, the kind of stand-up work that mother effer, nigger. He used the word nigger often. I'm asking you.
No, I am not thrilled to see not only Eddie Murphy, but there are many white comedians who use the same foul language and feed the American public as though the American public are human pigs who can only feel good when somebody is purveying filth and decadence over the radio, the television, and through the movies. And I think whether it's black or white, it is wrong, and it is bringing America down, down, down. And personally, I would hope that managers and those in show business would use our God-given talent in a much better way than to promote filth and decadence. I think that America has too much of that, and again, she's in trouble because of it.
Yes, ma'am. You'll be brief,
I am so sick and tired of this chip that you're carrying on your shoulder. We have bent over backwards. We have done backflips to make you feel equal. And yet, we've done everything. A perfect example is in the federal government. If you and I get the exact same rating for a position, do you know what? You get it. And do you know why? Because you're black. Is that fair? Is that fair to me?
You want to speak to that?
There is a woeful lack of understanding, not only in the black community, but really in the white community, of why black people are in the condition that we're in, and why all of the efforts that whites have made and government has made to try to solve the problem in the way that government sees fit has not really worked. And blacks are still crying out for more and more and more. And I realize that this is an irritant to white people because you really don't understand. And it's not really your fault. It's not really your fault. You just don't understand. But I think if you gave yourself a chance to hear what happened to these black people that makes them as they are as an irritant to you and those who think you have done the best you could. And maybe you have, but I respectfully suggest to you that there's so much more that could be done, that should be done, and that must be done if America is to survive. Believe me.